Welcome to Talkin Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I've got Matt O'Leary and Green Bean, the Jets fan. How you boys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, as good as we can, I think, under the circumstances from Sunday. I'm trying to positive vibe myself right now, but Sunday was a rough day for sure.
Green Bean, how you feeling?
Well, it's funny. I just asked Matt before. I was like, wait, is this still that week? Like I've gone through so much this week already that I feel like it's a month ago. I'm burnt. That said, I'm not hurting anymore, so that's good.
Oh, man, it has been a rough week for Jets fans, a rough last few days. Sports media has been ripping us apart. Literally every story leading the way with how the Jets blew it with their shot to get Trevor Lawrence. Guys, if you want to, make sure to check out these great content creators down in the description. All their links are down below. Make sure you sub them up if you haven't already. I do have a question of the day. It is pinned up in the top corner of the live chat, as well as in the description down below. What do the Jets do with the number 2 pick now? Make sure you vote on that. I'll read off the answers to what you guys think at the end of the show. But with that, I guess we could jump into our first topic of the day, the most pressing one, I think, and that is our thoughts on losing Trevor Lawrence. Now, guys, I don't know. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure I know how you guys feel, because as how I felt after watching that game, I was just crushed. Watching McVay throw it so long on 3rd and 4 and 4th and 4, I just sat there deflated. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this guy is the offensive guru, the young offensive-minded head coach that's supposed to be, all forward-thinking, and he forgoes a 55-yard field goal to have those 2 play calls in a row. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm sure Rams fans are pissed off. Jet fans are pissed off. Basically, the Rams traded the Jaguars 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey and the first overall pick for the fucking Trevor Lawrence. Oh, isn't that a real kick in the nuts? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first. What were your thoughts on this past week's game?
Well, let me say that just to talk, the whole game is whatever the whole game was. I don't know who these Jets are. I don't know where they came from or what was going on in the locker room. I don't know what this was, but it really does boil down to the Jets were primed and ready to do what they always do, which is collapse at the end of the game. They were trying desperately to hand it to the Rams. It was 3rd and 4, and they go for the jugular. Fine. I wouldn't have done it there, but fine. That's acceptable. On 4th and 4, do you know how easy it is to get 4 yards on the Jets? It is so, dude, they play off. You can get 4 yards without batting an eyelash against the Jets. The fact that he took another bomb, that was the play call. I mean, it's so bizarre to me that it actually feels like something's up. Like, that's how it's almost like, remember a couple weeks ago with Greg Williams, like in the last play, the cover 0. That's how it feels. It's like, no way does anybody do that, especially like you said, when you're in field goal range to tie it. So it just doesn't make sense to me. It pissed me off. But here's the worst thing, and then I don't know if this is another topic or not, but the worst thing to me is that for the past 6 weeks, 10 weeks, we've had everybody bombarding the Jets fans, saying we don't deserve Trevor Lawrence and all this stuff, and then now the minute we lose them, you're idiots, you suck, you can't even lose right. And so that's what we're handling or dealing with on this side now, and that's what bothers me the most.
Matt, what about you? How are you feeling after this past weekend's loss?
Yeah, well, Green Bean said it really well right there at the end. I'm going to get to that in a second. But just as far as the game goes, it made no sense. They had no business being in that game because if you look at the Jets and how they played on the West Coast, not even just under Adam Gase, but for the last 10 plus years. They're like 3-14 in their last 17 games on the West Coast. And then on top of that, you throw in the mix that Adam Gase was like 2-12, I believe, on the road as head coach of the Jets. The only 2 wins against the Washington Redskins last year and Buffalo in week 17 last year against their third starters. But only 2 wins on the road going into this game. And on top of that, McVay had an extra 3 days to prep for this game too, as Zach Wilson throws another touchdown pass here. More on that later, I'm sure.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, got sidetracked with the big TV. Where was I? Oh, yeah. But the Jets really had no business being in this game. And then the Rams come out completely flat. And I started to get a little bit worried. But as Green Bean said, man, they were ready to blow that game. They were coming right back. And if you don't have those 2 stupid play calls on 3rd and short and 4th and short, and you do literally anything else, like why not run something crossing over the middle? The Jets linebackers can't cover anybody. Like what are we doing here? Instead, they go for the bomb shot, and Marcus May makes a really nice play. Stunned would be an understatement. I thought they had no chance in this game, and somehow they pulled it off.
Yeah, you guys hit the nail on the head. There's no way the Jets should have been in this game. Like all the fault for me falls on McVay and the Rams and them just not being able to get going. Goff looked horrible all game. It looked like he was just throwing ducks out there. And then just like watching this whole team, I'm like, who is this? This is literally everything we were shouting and screaming about all year. We're seeing the motion pre-snap. We're seeing the tight ends get involved. We're seeing, the only thing I would say that we didn't see that I wanted to see was more from the younger guys. So we saw friggin' Frank Gore got, 24 touches? The one catch was the one that he wound up getting the first down at the end of the game. And then friggin' Ty Johnson had 9 touches. The guy was absolutely going off like the first quarter of the game, and then they just like put him on ice. It's like, well, what the heck? That sort of scares me because that's almost like when I was doing my top 5 takeaways, I was looking at how Gase called certain plays, like the end of the half when they were talking about, okay, let's run out the clock. We'll go into halftime. We're up 20-0. Well, they wind up throwing the ball and stopping the clock, and then the Rams get the ball back and add 3 points before half. Then at the end of the game, when he should be running the ball to run the clock out, he's passing the ball again, and we wind up giving the ball back to the Rams. So I'm almost like, oh shit, is this guy in on the tank even more? Because these are like so weird. It was just very odd play calling. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well then how come we were actually in the game doing a lot of the play calls that we did like? I don't know. It was incredibly frustrating for me. And then losing to the Rams, it just sucks because you wind up giving the Seahawks the division. And then now, more than likely, what's going to happen is the Seahawks are going to get a home field advantage game, at least one, throughout the playoffs, and they're going to have a much easier time making it to the next round, thus hurting our chances of getting a higher pick from them. So it's a little frustrating, I think, from that respect as well. It's almost like the double whammy. Jordan Ivey says, Green Bean, watch Zach Wilson. You'll feel better, buddy. He's decisive with great short and deep ball accuracy. Don't pull any more hair out. LOL. I will say this. I have the BYU game on my phone playing right in front of me. So as these guys are talking, I'm kind of glancing down time to time and seeing what's going on. So if you guys don't have the BYU game on, make sure you check that out because Zach Wilson, this kid looks legit. I think that's a pretty good spot to at least sort of talk a little bit about. Let's talk a little bit about Zach Wilson, and then we'll get on to a little bit more of the topics we have scheduled for tonight. Matt, I know you really like Zach Wilson. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing tonight from him and overall for the season?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So he's been a riser all year. And most people up until a couple of weeks ago had him behind Justin Fields. But I think with Fields' most recent performance and how Wilson's playing now and just the hype around him from this year, I think it's becoming more common that he's becoming QB2. Now, there are going to be people who say that Fields is still quarterback 2, and I get it personally. To me, up until maybe a couple weeks ago, before that Ohio State, who they played, Northwestern, right? Pat Fitzgerald?
Yeah. Like last week, like this most recently?
Yeah. And before that game, I would say, okay, maybe Fields is slightly ahead of Wilson, but with that performance in a big game like that, and then with what we're seeing from Wilson now and what we've seen all season, I think they flip-flop for me. But this kid is just fun. Like it looks like he's having fun on the football field. He's running around, he's making plays. He has a strong arm. He kind of reminds me of like a taller version of Kyler Murray, I guess. Someone who he could run, he can make plays, but he could also make plays with his arm too. And I love the fact that he can throw from all different arm slots. That's really exciting.
Do you know who he reminds me of? It would be like the love child of Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. They're both their game. The throwing style of Baker feels very much like Zach Wilson, and then the running around style and the strong arm of Kyler, are kind of in that mix too. And just watching him throw the ball is just the ball pops off his hand. It's really impressive. Green Bean, have you had an opportunity to take a look at Zach Wilson or formulate any thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I mean, not much more than highlights at this point. I just have been zeroed in on Trevor like I swore I wouldn't allow myself to do. I was really, now like with hindsight, I was pretty locked in, man, and it's upsetting. I mean, so I like him. I don't like, let's just keep it in perspective right now. He's playing UCF. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, okay, he can look good. I saw a quote, Daniel Jeremiah called him twitchy, loose, natural, easy, and explosive. That's his throwing style. So I don't know. He looks like a true baby to me. Like he looks like he's 15 years old. And I don't know. He's from Utah. Like you got to factor in a lot of this stuff when we're talking about bringing somebody into the Jets. Like I think a lot of our GMs and even coaches and stuff have neglected to factor that into when they're looking for players for the Jets. Not are they good players? Will they work here with this fan base who's just about had it? I mean, this fan base has had enough anymore. Like we're kind of done. God forbid they don't fire Gase. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be ugly to say the least. So I haven't dug into him like I will, but I did watch him. I do like him, but I have some concerns about whether or not he's the guy to bring over here.
That is fair enough. Donald says, which draft picks would you be willing to give Jacksonville for Trevor Lawrence? I would give both firsts in 2020, both firsts and a second in 2021. I'm assuming he means both firsts in 2021 and both firsts and a second in 2022 because 2020 is already passed. I'll say this. I am not giving up that much for Trevor. I would be all right with moving up. I think for me, you know what? No, I'm going to change that. I don't want to move up for Trevor unless it's not like a crazy, crazy deal. And Jacksonville would not make that trade. Anyway, I believe they're definitely taking Trevor. My theory on this is I don't want to trade up for Trevor. I want to earn Trevor, because if you earn Trevor, then you can attract the head coach, you can attract the free agents, and you can kind of build preparing for that. If you trade up, that draft or that trade is not happening until draft time, which means you've already hired your head coach, which means you've already gone through free agency, so you don't get the benefit of those two aspects of this deal. For me, the value of having number one, while I would love to have Trevor, I do see him as just one injury away from having a very rough career. You never know what could happen. That said, I don't want to give up all those draft assets. I'd rather pull the trigger on maybe a quarterback in the second pick, or trade down and get a quarterback. I'm even open up to the idea of rolling with Sam to an extent. For me, I think trading up for Trevor is just going to cost us too much. Like, this team was interesting with getting Trevor and then having all the extra pieces around him. If you take away all those trade assets, all of a sudden he's going to have no one around him, and that's just going to be a waste of a first year. So Green Bean, what do you think you would give up to move up?
Well, let me just say, where you just ended your point was where I was going to come in on this one. If we give up all the assets to get Trevor, what we're looking at is the same scenario that Sam Darnold had, where we can't get him anything. So, Do you think Trevor Lawrence would be better with our team than Sam would? Maybe. We have that argument. But I would not be willing to give up too much. I mean, I'd give up for both firsts this year and maybe another pick thrown in. That's what I would offer. If Jacksonville already has 2 firsts and they want our 2 firsts, and okay, man, now they can build a team around Justin Fields or whoever they decide to pick. If they're willing to do that, I would do it. But I wouldn't sell the farm. It's just not worth it, man. It never is. Anybody who gives up all their draft capital for one player, I don't recall it ever working out.
Matt, what do you think about possibly trading up for Trevor? What would be your ceiling on price?
Wait, Green Bean, the Saints trading all their draft picks for Ricky Williams wasn't a good idea?
It was a great idea.
It was a great idea, especially
I thoroughly loved Ricky.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I loved Ricky from a fan perspective. It really, really was a lot of fun to watch him. Run Ricky Run was a great documentary. And then he had have you ever seen the Miami jerseys that had Williams on the back and it said 420 across with the 3 numbers? It's fantastic. I absolutely loved it. So Matt, what would you think about trading up for Trevor?
I'm with you guys. I'll make this clear. If the Jets have the number 1 pick, obviously we're taking Trevor Lawrence, but I can't justify giving up an additional first-round pick this year and 2 next year on top of that. The Jets have so many holes. I would rather take my shot at taking the second quarterback, and that's another thing for me too. I'm not necessarily looking to trade out of 2. Like, whoever you think quarterback 2 is, I think you should just pull the trigger there. Because when you're moving back, then you're getting into you're playing with fire. Yes, it worked out last year for Douglas because Mims ended up falling to him, but it doesn't always work that way. And teams can move up, especially for a quarterback. If it was a position outside of quarterback, okay, there's a little bit of a different story. But for trying to land that potential next franchise quarterback, I'm just pulling the trigger at 2, and then whatever happens with the Seattle pick later happens there. But I don't really think it's a good idea for the Jets to be moving around at that point.
All very valid points. Let's see. We got Ibrima John says, as a huge Jags fan, the plan is to return to the AFC Championship game and trading Trevor Lawrence to the Jets for their 2nd pick, 26th pick, 34, and 2 first-round picks will allow us to do that. We need a farm like the Titans for Goff. It's really interesting. So that's coming from a Jaguars fan. Now, how knowledgeable Mr. John is, I cannot say. I have no context for the rest of your thought processes that you've wanted to make. But I could tell you this: I would not want to give up that much for Trevor.
Oh, no.
I like him. I like him a lot. And thank you so much for the super chat. But God, I hope you guys win a game so we can make the selection. This is like, I want to touch on this real quick. What's really interesting about this upcoming week, Gardner Minshew is going to be on fire the way that Sam Darnold was the week before. Just hearing about Trevor Lawrence constantly wanting to get that win, wanting to try and do something, because he's not guaranteed a starting job next year. So he's going to be playing for a contract. When I'm looking at the Bears, Mitch Trubisky is bound to have one of his Trubisky games. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened yet, or in the last few weeks, but I would like to see it happen this week. On top of that, there's a really interesting situation where, because last night the Bengals wound up beating the Steelers, if the Steelers can, if the Bengals can manage to beat the Texans this upcoming week, and the Falcons and the Panthers wind up losing their next 2 weeks, the Panthers, I believe, are playing the Washington football team and the what's the other team? They have 2 very losable games. And then the Falcons are playing, I believe it's the Chiefs and the Bucks. And the Chiefs are still fighting for that number 1 overall seed. So they're going to play hard this first week. If those 2 teams lose and the Bengals somehow win against the Texans, now the Jets are sitting at 2. Then it would be, say, the Panthers, the Falcons, and then the Bengals after that. So if the Jets decide that they want to potentially stick with Sam Darnold, there could be a real opportunity where the Bengals fall down to the 4th or 5th pick, and the Jets, if they do want to roll with Sam, could slide down a pick or 2, possibly pick up an extra second, maybe a first next year or something like that, and still select the player they want. And for me, if we do decide to stay with Sam Darnold, I'm taking Penei Sewell from Oregon. That's the guy that I have my sights set on in either at 2 or at a trade down in the event that we decide to stay with Sam. Green Bean and Matt, what do you guys think about the Jags and the Bears and the possibility of them, maybe winning a game this year?
Go ahead, Matt.
I'm hoping that we get one more Trubisky dud. Like that's all this kid's done in his 4 years, man. He's so streaky. He goes on a couple runs where it's like, okay, maybe this kid like has something, and then it just all falls off a cliff. He throws for like 130 yards and 2 interceptions. I'm hoping, man. It's a road game for them too. Like Jaguars are at home. Minshew's playing for his life, similar to Darnold. There's a chance. It stinks that they played well the last couple of weeks, but I'm holding out hope. Maybe Indianapolis rest their starters in week 17. It's a slim chance. I would say more than likely Jacksonville gets the number 1 pick. And if it was up to me, I'm not trading out no matter what. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence. Like Jacksonville's just as bad as we are in terms of quarterback purgatory. Why are they going to move and not take Trevor Lawrence? So I just don't see a scenario in which if they had that pick that they'd want to move out anyway.
Green Bean, what do you think about the Jags possibly trading out?
Well, let me say this first. And you and I, Ryan, got a moment when I called into your show last night to chat about this briefly, but I'll say it again. I absolutely believe that the Jags are beating the Bears. I think that's happening. I don't even think it's in question. And we're going to lose to the Browns. And the reason being is because the Jets have not reached maximum pain and aggravation for their fan base yet. If the Jets are good at anything, it's squeezing every last drop of pain and misery into the cup. Okay, so that's going to happen. The Jags are going to win. We're going to lose. We got one more. All we got to do is lose, and we're not going to. Because the roller coaster still has one more airtime hill at the bottom, one more helix for us to enjoy. So I think it's going to happen that way, man. But like was just said, I don't think the Jags are trading out. That haul that was put on the board, as your question earlier, the super chat, there is no way in hell that I would ever co-sign something like that. It's like we were just joking about with the Ricky Williams trade. Ditka gave every pick in his draft to move up from 12 to 5, and then he gave his first and second the following year. So it's like, how well did that work out? Look at Herschel Walker. Look at the RG3 trade. Look at all these trades. They never work out. So I don't think they're going to want to, because like Matt just said, dude, they're just as bad as we are. As far as being able to identify and keep good, franchise type players. Anybody who they get that's good wants out. So it's I don't think any of that shit's happening. But bet your ass on it, they're beating the Chicago Bears. That much I know as fact.
Dude, I'm gonna cry because what's gonna happen is they're gonna beat the Bears. I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind that we're back at number 1, and then Belichick winds up laying down the last week of the season with Jared Stidham, and we win a game, and then I'm crying again. It's just, that's exactly what's going to happen. I cannot expect anything less. Sam Roach, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, love y'all. Sam, we love y'all as well. You are a good person, and I am very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Kiss you.
Who we got? We got Sal Massa says, Michael Nania had an interesting article on how Trevor could spurn Jacksonville. Not likely, but if they're going to play that narrative on us, why not them? For me, I like that. I like that, like, hey, you know what? Maybe Jacksonville could get shafted by Trevor. Now, I don't see that happening. I think Trevor's going to go wherever, like, whoever owns that pick, he's going to go there. Not to mention, he grew up in Georgia. He's already getting married. He's graduating in the winter, I believe in the next week or so, actually. And he's going to be able to go to a location that is warm-weathered. It's close to home. He's going to have a zillion fans in that area. Now, that said, the marketability may not be quite what the New York City market is. And seeing everything sort of play out, there was a part of me that thought like, oh, maybe he's going to do that. But if I thought he wasn't going to do it to the Jets, what makes me think he's going to do it to the Jaguars? So, Matt, what do you think about Trevor possibly spurning Jacksonville?
Screw Jacksonville, man. Who wants to go play in Jacksonville? No one goes to those games. The games are blacked out on TV. They got a pool at the stadium. That's how little they care about the actual product on the football field. If Trevor Lawrence is listening, which I know he is, as Zach Wilson throws his third touchdown pass, by the way, we know Trevor Lawrence listens to the program, but why would you want to go play down in Jacksonville? Like, for what reason? That team has been equally bad, if not as bad as what the Jets have been over the last amount of time. I know they were in the 2017 AFC Championship game, but that was such a fluky year. They went right back to sucking the last 3 years anyway. So, like, what are we doing here? It's the same argument with that you had for the Jets, but it's even more amplified because it's not the biggest market in the entire world. So that narrative would actually make a little bit more sense. I'm not saying that he would actually do that. I don't think Trevor's that guy, but you can sell me on him not wanting to go to Jacksonville. Not wanting to go to New York is a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. How many people actually want to go to the Jacksonville Meth Kittens? I think they're probably not like the media mecca and the exciting area to go. Heck, they play 2 games a year in London. Like, you're going to be, going over there. You don't have any fans. That lower part of the country is invested into college football. They don't give a shit about the NFL. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on Jacksonville getting spurned by Trevor Lawrence?
In truth, I don't think that he's gonna, because like I said, like the same argument applies when I was talking about his character, that one interview with the guy that's known him forever. But I would say if, everybody talked about this crap for the Jets, it's more likely that somebody would spurn the Jacksonville Jaguars than us for all the reasons that were just mentioned. Jacksonville is an abyss. No one cares. Why do you think they're the team that they send over to London? Because, dude, their games are blacked out all the time. It's a very small market. It's a small market that doesn't care. Where you have some other places, like in, maybe the Carolinas or something. Like, yeah, they're smaller than New York and LA and all that, but they care. They're invested in their team. Jacksonville, they don't even care. And it's just one of those things where they have just as bad a luck as we do. Maybe not just as bad, but they're equally kind of a bad franchise, and no one even cares. So if he goes down there and they suck, he's going to be forgotten. Where at least if you suck in New York, you're still on the front page of the damn Sports Illustrated.
Matt, what do you think about any of Green Bean's statements right there? I think it makes perfect sense. I think we're kind of all in agreement. You could possibly see it. I just don't think that we're going to see it. I think Trevor has got his head on straight. He's going to wind up, going wherever he is selected. Any disagreements there?
No, not at all. He's a good kid. He's going to go to wherever, like he said in that interview with Rich Eisen, he was open to any challenge. We took it as in the Jets perspective because they were the ones sitting with the number 1 pick at the time. But the same stuff goes for Jacksonville. It's if they end up with the number 1 pick, they'll take them. And, I wish them the best there.
All right. Ibrima John, thank you again for another super chat. He says, Matt, the Jags have way too many holes on the roster. Getting Lawrence doesn't solve all our problems. The Colts and Titans are too stable. Ooh, well, you're starting to get me more intrigued. But the issue is the Jags have so much draft capital, and they're going to have the most draft capital now that they own the number 1 overall pick. We had edged them out just a little bit just because of the price difference or point value difference in the first and second pick originally. But what's going to happen is Jacksonville immediately becomes the ideal landing spot for a new GM, who they're interviewing now. They're looking at a new head coach. Most likely, Marone's not going to be there, so they're going to be a top landing spot there, which means they are going to get the free agents that you're going to desire. So they're not going to have as many holes by the time the draft rolls around. So you wind up taking Trevor 1 overall, and then it starts coming down to your other draft picks. And if you can hit on those, as long as you can hit on those draft picks, you're going to be looking good. You're going to be sitting pretty. Matt, what do you think about the Jags having too many holes right now?
I mean, it's you can make the same case with like the Jets, kind of like what we were just talking about with them trading back or whether you want to go there. Of course, the Jacksonville, any team who's picking in the top 3 or even more than that, but let's just use the top 3 as an example. Yeah, they're going to have a ton of holes, but quarterback is the most important position on the field. And maybe like with Gardner or Sam, there's a scenario where you could maybe make the case to keep those guys around. But I personally cannot justify it with these quarterbacks at the top of the class. Yes, they have holes, but each one of these teams also has multiple high-end picks in this year's draft class. So it's not like they're going to have a quarterback and then not have another pick for 3 rounds. Like they could build other ways too. And the Jaguars are going to have a ton of cap space, just like the Jets. So again, I don't really see a scenario in which it's all that different for either team here.
Green Bean, what do you think about the Jags needing a ton of pieces to rebuild?
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, they have the capital to do it. How are they with the cap? They're actually good, right?
They're better than us.
So they're what?
They're better than we are. They're going to have the most
Right,
cap. We have the second most.
There you go. So I mean, look, man, if you're able to get Trevor Lawrence, don't forget the Colts were dog shit before Peyton Manning came there. The Pats were the same. They had winning years here and there, but overall they were a bad franchise. The Buffalo Bills were the same way before Jim Kelly, and then since Jim Kelly until now Josh Allen. So like it really is contingent upon getting that winner in the organization. Trevor Lawrence is that. They have enough capital, just like we were talking about. You get Trevor Lawrence and you use everything else you got to build around him. And, having money in free agency this year is just so key. It's more key than any other year because people are going to get cut. So I think, dude, I mean, it all boils down to their GM. The problem is the Jags have been idiots with their picks over the years. So that's really what it's going to boil down to. I can't believe so many GMs flounder like they do. I mean, you look at the stuff that we would pick every year. How many great teams would we have built? Honestly, these guys blow it every year. I don't know how the hell they do it.
V-Man, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, don't give up hope. It is the season of miracles, referring to the Jets possibly getting the number 1 overall pick. Multiples says, Multiples, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, evening, guys. If we are stuck at number 2 and the Panthers have number 3 and the Bengals have 4, I would like to trade with the Panthers, get a hella haul of picks, and keep Sam. So here's an interesting topic that I think a lot of the fan base is split on. But before I go into that, guys, down below in the description, you'll see 2 links for Green Bean and Matt's channels. Make sure you subscribe to them. And then we also have a question of the day located in the description as well as in the pinned comment in the live chat. What should the Jets do at the number 2 overall pick? And I will read off those answers. I'll read off those answers at the end of the stream. So, guys, what do we think about the Panthers owning the 3rd pick, the Bengals having the 4th, and the Jets trading down from 2 to 3? Who would we be targeting? And what is the plan, or what would you like to get back in an event that we move down 1 slot or 2 slots, depending on what the option is? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
Wait, so if we are stuck at 2,
Yep.
the Panthers have
Panthers
number 3 and the Bengals have 4. I'd like to trade with the Panthers, get a haul of picks. So you think you're going to get a haul for them to move up 1 spot? I think you're more likely to get maybe a 2nd and next year's 1st or something like that, which would still be great for moving down 1 spot. I think let's just say you take the trade no matter what it is. I would go Sewell or Jamar Chase. That's who I'd be taking up top like that. Those are my 2 guys.
Matt, what do you think about trading down 1 pick or 2 picks or however many picks you think if we have number 2?
I don't like the idea of doing it, but I'll play the game. If we're moving back, then I'm taking Sewell, the offensive tackle. And if the plan is to go with Darnold, then fine. You got to build him that wall. Take Wyatt Davis with the Seattle pick 2, and then there's 0 excuses in year 4 at that point. Then.
Yeah, when I'm looking at this, I don't know what you would wind up getting. I think maybe a 2nd-round pick. I think what's going to happen is the Panthers and the Falcons, since they're in the same division, they both want to come up and get a quarterback, or they both want to make some type of move. and then we fall back. And for me, I'd like to at least play that game so we can slide back one pick, because I do like Sewell. Sewell would be the perfect bookend. You have Becton on one side, Sewell on the other. Not to mention Becton has shown he's a little bit of a liability in terms of his health. So in the event that Becton goes down for any sort of extended period of time, you slide Sewell over to left tackle, and then you have, Fant or whoever you got over at the right side. I think it gives you a little bit of flexibility. I think Joe Douglas would love that. This guy is considered the best tackle to be coming out since, I think, Jonathan Ogden. That's what a lot of people are saying. He's like a Quentin Nelson type of offensive lineman, a guy that can absolutely be a blue chip prospect on whatever team drafts him. And I think it's a home run of a selection if you decide you're going to stick with Trevor Lawrence. Greenbean, I don't know if I asked you, what would you like to get in return to slide back the, let's say, one pick?
You said me?
Yeah, what would you like to get back in a trade if we slid down one
Okay,
pick?
sorry. Yeah, I'm having little tiny blocks of internet weirdness, so it's a little pixelated in the sound, so I'm sorry. If I ever
worries.
just stare at the screen like an idiot, no, I didn't hear it.
I'll move to Matt.
What would, it's, yeah, say, like I said, Matt. So interestingly, I have a weird paradigm shift if it's me trading back rather than if we're trading up. If we're trading up, I only want to give a second. But if it's me trading back, I want to get a haul. But if it's me trading up, I only want to give a second. Does that work? I want to get like 3 firsts to move back, and I only want to give a second
one
to
slot?
move up.
That's fair enough. Matt, what do you want to
want.
get if we trade back? What would be your price to drop back the one slot?
I guess it would probably have to be something similar to what Chicago got in the Trubisky, or what, San Francisco got in the Trubisky trade, which was what I
think it was a second.
A second. There were multiple picks. I think it was.
Yeah. I think it was 2.
I don't know why a third and a fourth is jumping out to me, but I could be wrong.
Let's see. It was.
Yeah, it's a. So it was a first round pick, number 67 and 111 overall, as well as a 2018, the following year, third round pick.
Okay, there you go. So
Okay, so 2/3 and a fourth.
Okay.
2/3 and a fourth.
I guess, but then you're risking on losing that. Well, you're not taking a quarterback in this situation, right? Okay,
Correct. So, yeah.
Again, I wouldn't do it, but if that's what they want to do and stick with Sam Darnold, then okay, sure.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm only moving down if the option is to roll with Sam Darnold. I don't think if the option is to take a quarterback, you don't fuck around with that. You take your quarterback, whoever it is, at 2. And I doubt that you're going to like 2 or 3 guys the same. So why risk letting one of the guys go to trade back and get the guy you quote unquote want? Greenbean, what do you think?
Well, see, here's the thing. I think you're right, number one. Like, so if let's say hypothetically it's Zach Wilson that you like and you're at 2 and somebody wants to trade up 1 or 2 spots, it's really dangerous to move down 1 or 2 because they might be trading up for your dude, whether you think it's or not. So if you want a guy, he's your blue chip candidate there, you take him. That said, me personally, I look at right now, and I admittedly haven't looked into Zach Wilson all that deeply yet, but I compare Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, like to me, they're right in the same pocket. So the way it's looking right now is that Zach Wilson is up on the top of the draft and Mac Jones is going to be probably not even the first round. So me personally, I would take my blue chip tackle, wide receiver. I'd trade back and then I'd grab Mac Jones with 33 or whatever it is, wherever I think he's going to go. Maybe even the second, first, and you reach for him a little bit. But I do agree. If you have a guy there, trading back is dangerous. That's a dangerous game, man.
All right. John Livingston, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, as a Bills fan, we know all about droughts and the satisfaction by the organization to mediocrity. I personally was excited to have Tua, Josh, and Trevor in the same division. Jags feel like a waste. Could you imagine that the Patriots wind up losing their star quarterback and Tom Brady? They can squander around in purgatory for a little bit, and then the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins have their, top of the line quarterbacks. These are like physical freaks. What do you guys think about the idea of having all three of them in the division? I mean, I guess we all kind of want that because we wanted Trevor Lawrence at 1. But do you think he's a waste in Jacksonville, Matt?
I mean, it's probably good for them. It's hard for me to say anything positive right now because that's the guy that we all wanted. But I mean, yeah, maybe their games won't be blacked out anymore. So that's a plus.
Green Bean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, number one, I think a Bills fan, just be cautious up there with your hope and shit. You know what I mean? I wouldn't start thinking it's in your past yet. As you know, the Jets, Bills, Dolphins, we have promised things in the past, and it has not happened. You saw Josh Allen in the playoffs last year, so. Good for you guys. I love that the Patriots are knocked down. I would love to see some nice 80s like battles between the Bills and Dolphins and Jets. I would love nothing more than that. But I don't know how much anybody's really rooting for Trevor Lawrence to be on a division rival. I mean, I think I'm going to call you out, dude.
I think he's totally wrong.
I think he's lying.
I tried to show Charlie's comment. I can't show it because it's timed out a little too long. But Charlie, thank you for the super chat, says Wilson is not the answer. What real NFL competition has he ever faced? If we end up at number 2, you have to trade down and have faith that Sam can turn it around like Tannehill did without Gase. So this is going to be an interesting dilemma because I think this is going to be really where Jet fans kind of split. It's the idea of keeping Sam Darnold. And to me, going into this season, and not even at the season, I'd say like week 5, I was all Trevor Lawrence or bust. Like, you know what, I'm going to roll with Sam Darnold if we don't get number 1. And then as the season kind of went on, I definitely felt like the Jets should move on from Sam. I think I've seen enough from Sam where I could say, hey, he's regressed. I don't want to roll the dice on this. Not to mention, after we have all this cap space, all these draft picks, the chances of us picking in like the top 5 again is going to be pretty slim. So you're going to have to, if you decide to trade down and maybe you pick up a 2022 first, now you have 3 first-round picks. Then if it doesn't work with Sam when you run it back, because I don't believe we're picking up his 5th-year option, I think, because God forbid that he tears an ACL, we're on the hook for the $25 million because it's guaranteed for injury. So I think we don't pick up the contract. Worst case scenario, we franchise him at the end of the year. But man, I don't know. It's tough because if you roll Sam back, then you have to trade up potentially for the next franchise quarterback if there's a guy that you like and if that team is willing to trade down. Not to mention, God, I don't know. I like the idea. There's part of me that likes the idea of keeping Sam, part of me that doesn't. Like if you keep Sam and you just build around him, worst case scenario is you have a lot of assets and talent to go in with on the quarterback you take next year. So I can see that. It sort of makes sense to me. But what do you guys think about Wilson not playing like elite competition and rolling it back with Sam because of the success that we've seen Tannehill have without Gase? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's very valid. I'm always so cautious of guys that like skyrocket through like toward the end of the year and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes it works out. Like a good one was Josh Allen, the Jags pick a couple years ago. I wasn't that high on him, and he looked pretty damn good, legit. So I don't know, but especially at quarterback, I think again, like when I was saying about the Jets, like so. He could be a good quarterback, and if he goes to the Carolina Panthers where they're all calm and supportive for a long time, and maybe they baby him to a degree and slow enough that it works. Whoever comes here, we're up your ass. And the first game, you suck. Like that's how it is here, and it's like a lot of people can't handle that. So I think a guy like Wilson, I'm going to look into him a lot more, and I don't mean to sound definitive because I admit that I'm not all that up on him, but I already have concerns about him. For me, I would rather wait and take Mac Jones if he's later in the draft, or even Kyle Trask, who I'm liking a little bit less than Mac Jones. But I would rather use my 2 firsts on Jamar Chase and Patrick Jones, for example, and then in second round grab your quarterback and have him be just as good, or at least just the same potential as Zach Wilson at pick 2. You know what I'm saying?
Matt, what do you think about the idea that Wilson hasn't played elite level competition and that we should keep Sam because of the success that Tannehill has had without Gase?
Okay. I'll start with Wilson and then get to Darnold. Would you say that the number 4 defense in the country is good? Is it good?
I would say so.
Okay. Well, San Diego State has the 4th ranked defense, and they are the 2nd defense in terms of yards per play. In that game against San Diego State, he threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Last year, in 2019, he beat the University of Southern California. I don't know if you ever heard of that school, and Tennessee as well. Granted, are they world beaters? No, but there's a lot of NFL players coming out of those schools. We see that all the time. I think some of that stuff's a little bit overblown, and I think if you dig a little deeper and watch the film, I think you could get a better read on these guys than necessarily looking at their bios and seeing what conference they play in and watching the highlights. And with Darnold, same thing, man. I understand why people think that he could figure it out away from Gase, and a part of me feels like maybe he can, but if we're just going to assume that's going to happen, I think that's the complete wrong way to look at it. It's a major risk going with him into year 4. And like I said, maybe he does figure it out, but this isn't like a lateral step with Gase going into year 3. If that were the case, then sure. This is a massive, massive step backwards. He is on par with Brooks Bollinger's 2005 season. Like, that's a scary thing, guys. That's a really big drop off. And I understand the Tannehill comparisons, but Tannehill was never playing at this level of play. Flacco has even looked better than Sam Darnold has this year. I like the guy. I want him to play well. I really do. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it would be a mistake to bet on him figuring it out in year 4. I really do.
I concur. Alex, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, why would the Panthers switch when we wouldn't even take their guy, which would be a reasoning for trading with us in the first place? Well, the idea is if we trade up, maybe they're okay with Justin Fields or Zach Wilson and a haul of picks, and we get Trevor Lawrence. So that's the thought process there. I think, for me, I would not trade up because of all the issues with our head coaching search. So our head coaching search, if we had the number 1 overall pick, like if the Jaguars were willing to trade it prior to us getting a head coach, okay, you know what, maybe I would consider that. That's not going to happen. We're going to wait till draft time to figure out what it's going to be. They're not going to pull a trigger that early, which means we don't get the benefit of finding the head coach. We don't get the benefit of the free agents that know we have the good head coach and have Trevor Lawrence coming. So for me, there's no real benefit other than just the upside of Trevor Lawrence, which scares me, especially when we don't have the assets. So, Alex, I agree with you. I think all of us agree that the Panthers – or actually, no, I'm sorry. Why would the Panthers switch when we couldn't even take their guy, which is trading with us? So I don't know if the Panthers would necessarily trade with us. I think we'd have to get the Panthers and the Falcons involved. And maybe the Panthers slide up 1 pick because they have Teddy under contract for 2 more years. He's going to have the ability, or the Panthers are going to have the ability to get out of that contract after 2021. So letting your guy sit for a year and then rolling into him, kind of like the way Mahomes did with Alex Smith. I could see the benefit to that. I just don't know. It's really going to depend on how threatened the Panthers are that we have another person to trade with, or that we are definitely going to take their quarterback, or there's a lot of moving pieces here, but I think the Panthers could trade up. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. I don't know. Green Bean, Matt, or Green Bean, what do you think the likelihood is the Panthers trading up?
I think they're same likelihood as everybody else. You know what I mean? They just fired their GM, so maybe they're going to want to be splashy and, or, make a bold statement or something. So maybe it's a good time for them to do it. I think that they're starting to understand who they want to be. I mean, they got a new coach, a new regime, and all that sort of stuff. So I think this season was kind of feeling that out. But now the GM was the one that signed off on the $10 million a year for Matt Rule, right? Isn't that the guy who did it, or was that more of an ownership thing? Does anybody know?
That I don't know. I don't know how their structure works.
If they don't like it. You know what I mean?
I don't know how their structure works compared to ours. I would hope it's, a little different. Our structure sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how to answer that. But that would be interesting because they just fired their GM. So if the GM signed off on it, maybe it's a different mindset or something, or I don't know. There's got to be some type of rift, I would think, between head coach and GM at that point.
Yeah, or maybe they don't like the move, ownership or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not going well over there. So I don't know. I think those kinds of scenarios, number one, they could be looking to make a statement. Number two, they could be in complete disarray and they're trying to settle it down. So I don't know. I think it could go either way.
Matt, what do you think about, what's the likelihood of the Panthers looking to trade up?
Maybe. I don't know. It's tough for me to get in their head on what they're trying to do. I think they should take a quarterback. If they feel like they have to move up to get one, then okay. But where are they slotted to pick now? 4?
4 right now.
I'd probably stay there because I would operate under the assumption that you're getting one of Fields or Wilson, which I would be okay with if you don't want to give up the assets, which I'm not necessarily looking to do. I'd like to keep all my draft picks and just take whichever one is there.
Yeah, for me, I think there's a lot of people that like the thought of Wilson or Fields, and realistically, the Bengals are taking Penei Sewell if they're somewhere in between. So for me, it's hard for me to see someone wanting to give up more assets unless you really don't like Fields. For me, I watched that game in the the title game. I don't think that he worries me because he had a hand injury, but he didn't look good. The last 2 nationally televised games that we saw with him didn't really look good. What's going to kill me is we're going to see on January 1st Clemson versus Ohio State, and we're going to watch Trevor just beat the ever-living piss out of Ohio State. We're just going to have to sit there and watch it. It's going to be brutal. Jordan Ivey, thank you for the super chat. He says, Wilson is killing the competition, as he should. People downplayed Josh Allen's potential, and now look how that changed. Ohio State quarterbacks don't work out. Sorry. The Ohio State quarterback thing, I feel like is a little bit overblown. I don't compare Fields to Haskins or any of the quarterbacks that came before him, but I understand the thought process. It's the same way we think about USC quarterbacks with Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez, Matt Castle, Carson Palmer, all these different quarterbacks that have come out over the years. So I understand the fear in Ohio State quarterbacks. For me, Wilson and his talent are on a different level than Allen and what he was pre-draft. Like when you were listening to people talk about Josh Allen pre-draft, they were like, this guy is legit. He is Cam Newton 2.0. He's just got to figure out the throwing. The accuracy was bad. He came from a small-time school, so you didn't know what the level of competition was going to wind up being. I think that's the fear that you had with Allen, but he had all the physical traits. I don't necessarily see all the physical traits there with Wilson. I do see the strong arm. I see the mobility, and that all sort of checks the boxes, but it's not that, athletic specimen that Allen was, in my opinion. Matt, what do you think about comparing Wilson to Allen in terms of the type of competition and downplaying the potential?
I kind of see it. To me, I think Wilson has put up the better numbers in college, which makes him stand out a little bit more. I think, and I'm speaking specifically on college, not what this player I'm about to say has done in the NFL so far. To me, the comparison is more with Patrick Mahomes going into the draft, because everyone was saying, well, you can't draft this kid who's playing against, in that conference, they don't play defense. And there was so many other things. And, you can't draft him. Cliff Kingsbury's offense, that's a spread offense. Well, it worked out. Like, if you put these players in a position to succeed, then it could potentially work out. And with your current quarterback that looks like you've ruined, I don't know how you could possibly risk that again. But and I'm with you. I don't necessarily buy into the Ohio State quarterback thing. I think each individual prospect has to be looked at. I don't like generalizing people based on schools. I don't think that's fair to the individual. So I'm with you on that one too. But to me, I think Wilson's more the Mahomes in the college route of, oh, who has he played? Oh, these guys are wide open. Oh, it's a spread offense kind of thing.
Greenbean, what do you think about the potential of Wilson, the competition, and sort of comparing it to what Allen's potential was coming out?
Let me say this. I remember when I didn't believe in the tendencies of track records of schools. I think it's hard to put a finger on. I absolutely buy into it. There are consistencies with certain positions coming out of certain schools that don't do well. And it goes back 10, 20, 30 years sometimes. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what it is. But I think that there's absolutely merit to the idea that you have to factor these things in. It's not the end all. Like you just say, hey, we don't take Ohio State quarterbacks or anything like that. But I think there's something to it, man. There has to be, or else it wouldn't be as consistent as it is. And there's lots of positions with lots of schools. Forgive me, but I feel like Alabama cornerbacks are another one. I might have that mixed up, but but there's something to that. So I think, again, these are things that you have to factor in. You can't take any one thing and make it the reason. Like, I think people put too much emphasis on hand size and arm length. I mean, a guy's arms are 3/4 of an inch shorter than somebody else's, and they say he's a 5th round pick. So it's like those types of things. If you use any one of these metrics to, as the thing that is the decider, I think that's a mistake. But I think not including all this stuff. Now, as far as again, I can keep giving you guys uninformed opinions on Wilson. I'll do it. I don't. But the truth is that I don't know enough about him. Like I said, I've only perused over things with him. I read an article on him this week, because he's becoming more in the spotlight. So I just kind of looked at him, but I don't really know enough about him. I will say that the concerns that people have are the same concerns that I have. And it sounds stupid, but when I look at that kid, he just looks like he's way too innocent to come over here and what we're going to do to that fucking poor kid. So I don't know. That's scary to me. I feel bad already for him. I don't know what that means.
Guys, if you have not done so already, down below in the description, both these great content creators, I have their channels linked down below. Make sure you give them a subscription because they are absolutely awesome. They're going to be putting out a ton of content over the course of this offseason. Guys, we do have a question of the day up in the pinned comment on the live chat, and down in the description you will see a link. Click on that link, vote in our poll question of the day. What should the Jets do at number 2? I'm going to read off the answers at the end of this stream, so we'll get an idea of where your guys' head's at. Guys, we have over 590 people total across all 3 platforms of YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So make sure you hit that like button. Show us that you like it. If you want Adam Gase fired, if you're upset that Trevor Lawrence is gone, potentially if you want the Jags to win this week, drop a like. We want to see that get up easily over 200. There's no reason we can't get that. GV Reflex says, bring back Fitz Magic, baby. Please, no, for the love of God, don't do that to me. In a backup role, like if you draft a quarterback and you want someone to sort of run the offense, I guess. I mean, I would rather just maybe bring Flacco back so at least he's a common face in the locker room. I don't know. That's brutal. Greenbean, what do you think about bringing Fitzmagic back?
I love it. I think he's the savior.
Matt, what do you think about bringing Fitzmagic back?
No, we ran it back in 2016. It didn't work. I'm over it, man.
That's right.
Lloyd, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, what do we think about the defensive backs? Austin sucks. Lamar sucks. Goudry isn't bad, and it will cost too much to sign May and Poole. It's not going to cost too much to sign Main Pool. We have close to $80 million in salary cap, and those are like the only two guys worth bringing back. Maybe Perriman if you want to kind of throw him in there. So we'll have plenty of money to bring these guys back. It's going to be a matter of if they want to come back and sort of how we handle everything here. Defensive back-wise, I loved what I saw out of Bryce Hall. I believe he was our highest-rated defender, or maybe second highest-rated defender this past week. It was like him and Quinnen Williams were 1-2. And that interception he made was nasty. The guy looks like he can be legit. I love the value we got with him so late in the draft. Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first because I know you love some Bryce Hall.
Yeah, that's our boy, man. And we were high on him coming into the draft. He slipped way further than I thought. I believe you guys as well. I think I remember talking about that with you guys. And I think he has shown week in, week out. He's going to have his mistakes. All that sort of stuff is happening as well. But he's not doing the same stupid things that you see people who are never going to make it do. He's doing things, correcting them. And that interception, like you said, was impressive, man. And not only the physical part of it, the read was what was impressive about it. So he knows how to read offenses. He knows his assignment. He's willing to do the dirty work. He's not all for the glory kind of guy. And I think that we're seeing just the beginning of him. I feel very confident that he can be a starting cornerback for us. And I think that there's potential for him to eventually become a number one. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd like it. And I think it's there. I think the potential's there. And I love him.
Matt, what do you think about the Jets' defensive back situation?
Austin's not good. I thought going into this year that maybe he can be like a number 2 corner. I think he proved that he's a good tackler. He can't cover anybody, though. As for Hall, he's flashed a lot. I really like what we've seen out of Bryce Hall. Green Bean was beating the drum during the draft process. I really like the kid. I mocked him to the Jets, I think, in the 3rd or 4th round. And when did we get him?
I think we both had him in the 3rd because we had all our picks up in the top corner. And I think all 3 of us had him that day, early on.
Right. So I was surprised that he was still there when the Jets grabbed him. But I really like this kid. I don't know if he'll ever be a number 1, but if he can be an Antonio Cromartie to a, insert whoever in cornerback 1 spot, whether it's free agency or the draft, then okay, I'm cool with that. And, I think he's at least earned the opportunity to compete for a starting job next year. And for May and Poole, they haven't, like you said, they have no one else to sign. Those are the 2 most important guys. Bring them back.
So I would even look at franchise tagging May. I was looking at the price of the safety franchise tag. It's only $10 million. So I think the Jets would be silly not to slap that tag on him if they can't work out a long-term deal. I guess I'll throw it to you guys. What do you think about possibly franchise tagging May? Matt, I'll throw it to you first.
I would do it at that cost. I would think that his value over a long-term deal would be around $10 million. So if that's all that's going to take, then why not run it back another year with Marcus May then at that point? Sure.
Yeah, Green Bean, what do you think about possibly tagging him?
Who's the last guy we franchised? Does anybody know?
I would bet. Did we tag
I don't know.
Wilkerson?
I can't even think.
Did we tag Wilkerson or no? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
So I think it might be fun just to tag him because it would show that we have somebody that's worth tagging. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? For the first
guys
time
in the chat, if you guys know who the last person we franchise tagged was, I have no idea who it is off the top of my head. I would think
that's crazy.
Wilkerson,
dude.
maybe.
We never have to franchise anybody.
Yeah, I mean we haven't drafted well, so it hasn't really come into play.
Right. I think that all said, I didn't know that. I didn't even think of that. Because franchise tagging is so far from my mind. Right. But I think that it definitely makes it's a better feel for your relationship with the player if you just sign them. So if we could sign them for 4 years for 9.5 or 10 or like maybe he wants 10.5 and you franchise him to save the $500,000. That's the kind of stuff that ends up wearing on the relationship. So I think I'd rather see them sign him and just kind of keep him here for the remainder of his career, most likely, than franchise him. But I think that's definitely an option, especially at that price.
It looks like 2014 Nick Folk was our last franchise tag, so a kicker was the last time we did it. And what's crazy to me is like we look at our kicking situation, how much it sucks, and then you see Nick Folk, you see Jason Myers, you see Mike Nugent, all former Jets kicking, all over the place. And for me, it just absolutely crushes me that our kicking situation is as bad as it's been recently. Donald, thank you so much for the super chat. He said his build, athleticism, and national motion remind me of Aaron Rodgers, says Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel Jeremiah's pro comparison for Zach Wilson is Aaron Rodgers, 5 touchdowns in the first half. Holy smokes. Dude, the guy's absolutely legit. I love the speed. I love the arm strength. He's the type of guy that I think if you bring back Perriman and you have some of those other burners on the outside, he could really whip the ball around the field, and that's exciting for me. And I think by the time the draft rolls around, he's going to transplant Fields as QB2. Green Bean, I'm not going to throw this to you because you keep saying you haven't watched enough on Wilson. So Matt,
oh, I know. All I know is he looks cute. That's all I got.
He's adorable. Oh man, he's high up there. When I do my Fuck, Marry, Kill series, we might have an issue here. Matt, what do you think about Zach Wilson and the comparison to Aaron Rodgers?
That might be a little strong, but I mean, mine was Kyler Murray, so I mean, it's not super. I'm not saying Kyler Murray's in the same category as Rodgers, but you get what I'm saying here. Did you a little off topic, and then I'll reel it in. But did you see the story with Zach Wilson going to prom?
No. Spill the beans. What happened?
He took 2 BYU cheerleaders to prom.
Oh man, this guy's a boss. I want him. He's my next Broadway Joe. I want like.
I tell you.
Oh God, I don't even know. We got to come up with a good nickname for this, but then I don't know. That's amazing. That guy's a baller.
Yeah, not mine, but someone on Twitter, Drew from Jersey, has been calling him Mormon Mahomes.
That's funny.
I like it. The Storm and Mormon is another one I've heard.
Love it.
So you think his player comparison is probably closer to Kyler, you think, than maybe an Aaron Rodgers?
It's hard for me to compare anyone to Aaron Rodgers, man. He's so unique in with what he does. That's like saying this kid's Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. It's hard for me to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's kind of where I fall as well. So we'll see how that goes. What do you guys think about? I want to bring it back to this past week's game. What do you think about the players commenting on how they felt after the game about the fans and rooting for losses and all these different things? My take on this, when I saw Becton's comments about, hey, you're not a real fan if you're rooting for losses, I was fired up because for me, I love my team. I want them to succeed. Rooting for losses is not what I initially had planned. I was all about winning. If you ask me, if you don't want Jet fans to root for losses, don't lose your first 13 games. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on teams, Jet fans rooting for losses and the players' comments overall?
Well, I'm not going to say too much because my first podcast, which might even be released, it's probably going to be released Thursday, is heavily on about this. But what I will say is fuck him. How's that for you?
That is a great little teaser for that. Matt, what do you think about the team's comments?
I get it, but I don't at the same time. So obviously from their perspective, like they are going to try to do every single thing in their power to win. We talked about this ad nauseum with the coaches and the players are not tanking. The fans can root for the tank all they want, but tanking doesn't exist between the white lines. We know that. I don't like his comments, McGovern's comments. I mean, they don't know. They just got here, man. I've been here 25 years.
Right.
Ryan's been here for 31 years?
31.
48 years, man. It's not easy. They don't know what we've been through, man.
Right.
We're rooting, and the reason why we're rooting for losses is not because we want misery forever. No. We want to set ourselves up to be happy for a sustained period of time. So I don't think they understand where we're coming from, which is the main difference. But I mean, if I was going out there every week, getting spanked at 0-13 and then having my fans be rooting for losses, maybe I'd be a little frustrated too. I don't know. I see both sides of this, kind of.
Yeah, you gotta look at it from the fans' perspective. I think everyone knows the players are going to play to win, and I get it. I'm happy for him to an extent, but let me tell you, how much is Becton going to be eating those words if he has journeyman quarterbacks over the course of the next 6 years? He's going to be asking to get out of New York. Getting right. Trevor Lawrence would have set us up for just an immense period of attraction for head coaches, as well as just the free agents and things of that nature. So for me, that's kind of where I fall on that. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, words for those foolish enough to want to keep Sam, please. All right, so for me, this comment is saying, what are our reasons against keeping Sam, I think. Am I reading that right? Does that sound accurate?
That's fine.
So for those that want to keep Sam, how many quarterbacks really turn around after 3 years like this? Like, he has regressed horribly. Like, he has been, since he came into the league, he has been the worst quarterback in the league. And we've seen flashes. Hey, 80% of the time, though, he's playing poorly. I don't like that that's what we're getting out of him. And for me, the only way I'm okay with keeping Sam is if the head coach that we want comes in and says, I want Sam. I want to play with this second overall pick in a different capacity. I don't want to look at taking a quarterback. I would be okay in that situation with rolling Sam back. Like, I there was part of me that wanted to roll with him anyway, and I see the potential. I just don't know if decision-making is something that is, a Gase-taught trait. Like, I think being able to read a defense, this guy was a linebacker in high school, so he's not groomed the way that other quarterbacks are groomed. So I like Sam. I wish Sam was a little bit more of an asshole, so it would be a little bit easier for me to want to move on from him. Like, he's just such a good guy. Green Bean, what do you think you would tell people who want to keep Sam Darnold right now?
Well, I think I would just say I think you should probably watch some of the games that he's played for us. I mean, look, at the beginning, week 1 of this year, this particular collection of people, us three, were so high on Sam Darnold. This was going to be the year. We were talking 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, all this kind of stuff. We believe in him, and we were supporting him 100% behind him. What he brought to the field was worse than anything we could have imagined. It's Bubby Brister level bad, man, and maybe even worse. So I would say just look at what we're seeing. I mean, the only way, just like you said, I think if we went and got, let's say, Matt Campbell, and he said, oh, no, don't get rid of Sam Darnold. I got him. I'm all over that kid. Then that's one thing. But I think also the way to do it, if you're going to draft one of these later quarterbacks, the Kyle Trasks, Mac Jones, or whatever, and you want to just have a 3-way battle between James Morgan, Sam Darnold, and Mac Jones, let's say, and that's what you're going to do, I mean, I would say okay, then do that. But I wouldn't go into the season depending on Sam as my starter. It would take a lot for me to think that's a good idea.
Matt, what do you think you would tell people who want Sam back for next year?
Watch the game film from this year. It's tough. And going into the year, Green Bean's right. All three of us were high on him. We were expecting a breakout year. And I'll say it again. I said it earlier, but if he even took a lateral step and they were playing bad, and then let's say they were, I don't know, let's say they had 3 wins, but he was playing at the level at what he was last year, then okay, sure. I would say absolutely, let's bring him back. But he's playing so bad. There's been 5 games, like half of his starts, he doesn't have a passing touchdown in. And it's not all the things around him that people like to put the blame on. Yes, at times the wide receivers are bad. At times the offensive line is bad. But there are also so many instances of a clean pocket with a receiver open where he doesn't see him. His mechanics are way off. Do you know how many times I did some film watching with him today? You know how many times his body is facing left and he's throwing right? Maybe fix it. Maybe. But that's a huge gamble going into his 4th year at this point, because we've seen now 36 examples of him continuing to do this. And that's another thing. He's missed at least 3 games in each of his first 3 years. There's a lot of risk involved. I'm not saying that it couldn't work out, but if we're just going into it blindly, into his 4th year, pretending like everything's fine, I think that's also a massive mistake.
Yeah. I saw, Matt, I think it might have been on Instagram or whatever, but you did the breakdown of that Mims Dude, that is one of the best examples to show you just how lost he's either frozen or something's up with him. But like you said, now remember the first one Jets drive with Gase, the first one when Gase came. So Darnold had his rookie year. We fired everybody, hired Adam Gase, and he was doing the film breakdown of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold showed terrible mechanics. And Gase said, look, he shouldn't be able to throw that ball, but he gives you that. So Gase was like impressed by his ability to do that. He never worked on his mechanics with him, man. We know this because number one, there's no quarterback coach. Number two, there's no offensive coordinator. And number three, like I just said, Gase has actually said on more than one occasion that he likes that about Darnold. That's one of the things that he likes about him. So when we're seeing this degradation of his skills, we're seeing a deeper dive into poor mechanics. It's because no one's working on this with the kid. He's gone backwards. So if you're going to keep him as your starter, like Matt just said, that is the risk of risks as far as quarterbacks in the NFL goes. I think I don't know, man. And it sucks because we all love him. And he's a good soldier. Give it to him. But, we're a football team.
So, guys, we do have a question of the day. All you have to do is click on the live chat, and you can see it. What should we do with the number 2 overall pick? It's also in the description down below. Give it a look. Vote on that. We'll read off the answers at the end of the show. Someone is going to be winning a shirt at the end of this show. So all you need to do is answer that poll question. You'll be entered to win a Just End the Suffering shirt. So Robbie comes in with a super chat. Thank you so much, Robbie. He says, what if the Jets trade the second pick to whoever has the third pick for a second round this year and next year's second or first rounder and take a chance at Wilson or Fields? For me, I'm all about trading down a pick, but if we're taking a quarterback, I'm staying at 2 and I'm taking the guy we want. I don't want to roll the dice on moving back and risking that team selecting the quarterback we want, because there's got to be some sort of dialogue there. And it would be like, okay, well, who are you coming up to get? That's usually what they ask. And it's okay, this is who we want to get. I just don't see it happening with a one move down. I think the only way we trade down is if we're not looking for a quarterback. Green Bean, what would you think about sliding down from second overall to third overall to take a chance on Wilson or Fields?
Well, if you have them as equal, like if that's your board and you have those guys as the same level, they're equal on your board, then of course it makes every bit of sense to do it. I doubt that the team would have them as equal. They'll definitely have one. So if you want a quarterback, you like Fields over Wilson or vice versa, sliding back, you might as well guarantee your guy's going. That's the way I see it. I think just take it, man. It's not worth it.
So before I jump over to Matt and get his thoughts, I think Robbie, what he's saying is maybe trading back with the Bengals. So maybe it's the Bengals coming up one slot because they're afraid the Jets might take the lineman. In which case, I don't know if they'd give up as much as that. That would be interesting because if the Bengals have the third pick and they're coming up, they're not taking a quarterback. They would be taking Penei Sewell, and then you take your quarterback at 3. That's interesting to me, and I don't know if the Jets could kind of swing it that way. But if there's enough fear, like hey, look, there's a shot. We're going to take Penei Sewell. You give us a second round pick, we won't take him. We'll take a quarterback. Matt, what do you think about the idea of going down one pick and selecting a quarterback?
I'm nervous to trade back when you're taking a quarterback. If you want to take another position, okay, but at the most important position of football. And that's another thing that I see a lot too online is quarterback 2, whether you think it's Fields or Wilson, whoever you think it is, are they worthy of the number 2 pick? Hell yeah, they are. Any quarterback 2 should be worth the second pick. If you want to talk positional value, there is no more important position than the quarterback. If you're a quarterback needy team and you're picking number 2 overall, you take the best damn one available right then. No, you don't mess around with it. That's the thing that never makes sense to me. So, no, I'm not going to trade back because I don't want to risk losing my guy. Even if, let's say, you're trading with the Bengals, a team that's not going to take it. I just don't. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't want to mess around. I just want to take my guy and move on.
Completely agree.
Right. Yeah, well, let me just say this, though. The Jets have actually done that move before. Does anybody remember when it was? It was one of the first drafts I really watched, like with a bunch of guys and had all kinds of beer and party. It was like, you know, I usually
1990.
watch drafts alone.
I would say 1997 or 8. It was the year that Parcells came in and traded back from 1 when Peyton didn't come out. That would be my thought. But I don't know. Green Bean, take me to school.
Well, the year of, you know, I think it was not, I think it was, I don't remember the year, but it was when we wanted Marvin Jones, the middle linebacker out of Florida State. But we also needed a running back, and Garrison Hurst was there. We talked the Phoenix Cardinals at the time we said, we're going to take Garrison Hurst unless you give us your running back, who was a very good running back at the time, Johnny Johnson. So they gave us Johnny Johnson, and then we took the guy we were going to take anyway. So if you're going to do something like that, if you know, and it all depends on how confident you are. I mean, look, Joe Douglas showed us last year that with the Mims thing, he was there at 48. He decided to slide back to 59 and still get, you know, he probably had Claypool, Van Jefferson, and Denzel Mims in the same pocket. And he knew he'd get one of them, and he was willing to take that risk. I tend to lean toward what Matt was saying about a quarterback. I don't think you can reach for a quarterback. I just, like, if you only have one pick and it's in the first round and you know he's not going to be there at your second pick, you fucking take him. It's just that simple. You don't try to play games. Oh, it was a reach. He really shouldn't, you know, he only has a mid first round grade. So what? Take your guy and get out of the first round with a victory. But I think if you're able to play this stuff and you have enough players on these tiers, and you can do that to the Bengals, say, give us your second and we won't take your right tackle or your left tackle, it's smart to do that. You just got to be confident, man. You got to have balls.
So Matt Watson, thank you for the super chat. He says, if they end up keeping Darnold, thoughts on getting Sewell at 2 or trading down to get Patrick Surtain the second or Jamar Chase, the wide receiver from LSU? I would only do it if we get a first for 2022, says Matthew. I love the idea of taking Penei Sewell if we're rolling with Sam Darnold. I think the health of Mekhi Becton does come into question a little bit. I'm hoping after an NFL offseason, his conditioning is a little bit better, so he's not taking a few plays off. But he has had a few injuries. I'm not concerned with his injuries because they're all upper body. It's not like it's leg injuries. But I think there's enough concern where if you're getting a franchise quarterback or you're trying to protect your franchise quarterback, building the offensive line with a guy like Penei Sewell, who's considered to be like Quentin Nelson, just an elite blue chip offensive lineman, is the perfect way to do it. If you wanted to trade down and you can get a first round pick for next year and you're getting Patrick Surtain or Jamar Chase, I don't love the idea of going corner so early. I'd prefer it to be an offensive player, whether it be a offensive lineman, a quarterback, or a wide receiver, something like that. Maybe I get on board with Kyle Pitts. I don't particularly like that selection either. But I would like Sewell at 2. Matt, what do you think?
I have a couple thoughts here. I could see the taking Sewell at 2, but I also kind of like the idea of trading down because would either of you guys say that right tackle's been a reason why the Jets have been losing football games? I don't think I could say that confidently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no, I not overconfidently at all, for sure.
No, so I would be okay with to me, the issue is the interior of the offensive line. So I would be okay with moving back. Maybe you take a wide receiver with that first pick that you move back. Like, I'll just throw a number out there. Let's say you move back to 8 and you take the best wide receiver at 8 and then the best interior offensive lineman with the Seattle pick. I think that's a route that I can get comfortable going with. I know Sewell is a great prospect. There's no doubt about it, but I just don't know how much that's going to actually help the Jets when they have their franchise left tackle and they have a very capable right tackle. I think that would almost be a waste of assets.
Green Bean, what do you think about Sewell at 2 if we decide to keep Darnold?
Well, I think I don't think right tackle, like Matt said, can be the focus of why we were bad, but I think the last few years, the offensive line as a whole. So, and I think this is a good offensive line class. I don't know. I would probably take Jamar. I don't know. I would probably lean towards Jamar Chase and then get Cosme later, or even a center, Creed Humphrey, one of those guys first before right tackle. I think Fant's less of a liability than our interior offensive line has been. But if you're going to go for the offensive line, you just want to make the biggest, beefiest, strongest ass offensive line you can, and then take them. I mean, it's not going to be a wasted pick per se, but I think it probably can be better utilized than taking a right tackle. Although Sewell's good.
All right, guys, if you want to get in, if you guys want to get in on winning a Just End the Suffering shirt, I'm going to raffle one off in about a half hour's time. All you have to do is answer our question of the day. It's pinned in the live chat as well as down in the description down below. So make sure you answer that. What should we do with the number 2 overall pick? Cast your vote and get a shot to win a shirt. E-Rock, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, it seems trading back is not favorable. But how would you feel about moving 2 times this year? Have a total of 4 firsts next year and still pick between 10 and 12. This sounds like a Green Bean type conspiracy theory. I know Green Bean's got a bunch of tinfoil under that Jets hat over there. I think he's probably talking about trading down from 2 to say like 4 or 5 with the Falcons, them looking to come up and get a quarterback. Then maybe there's another elite player there, and you drop back again, and you're just collecting first-round picks over the next few years. I mean, if you're all set on Sam Darnold, I'm all about trading down. I don't need to have a top 10 pick to get a crazy player, but I would like to stay, I'd like to be able to find a blue chip prospect. As long as we can get one of the top, I would say 3 receivers, I could probably get behind trading down if we're keeping Sam, if that's the option. Because I think Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, and Waddle, those 3 receivers in particular, are all elite, and you could take any one of them. I don't know. Matt, what do you think about possibly trading down twice and having 4 first-round picks next year?
I love the idea of 4 first-round picks. I just don't know how likely that is. Are we keeping Sam Darnold in this scenario? I would assume so if you're moving back twice this year. I don't think it's a good idea. It's not something that I would do. I think there's a lot of needs right now on this team, and I don't know if I would want to move out of a number 2 pick for a number 10 pick. I don't know. That just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me.
Green Bean, what do you think about moving down to get 4 first-round picks next year?
I'm all over it. If Trevor Lawrence isn't there, I think if you're at 1 and Trevor Lawrence is there, it supersedes everything else. You take him. For me personally, when I look at this draft, I'm all over trading back. If the price is right, I'm all over it. I'd rather have quantity in this particular draft.
Yeah, I think that's sort of how I fall. As long as you're not taking the quarterback, I think if you're taking the quarterback, you have to hang around. Yeah. Triple B 29 Rob, Thank you so much for the super chat. I have no idea what type of denomination that is, whatever an NZ is, but thank you so much. He says, how un-Jets like has this draft class been? What do we have? 5, maybe 6 starters? So I will say year 1 of Joe Douglas's draft class has been very impressive. You have Becton and Mims both look like hits. I don't understand why we're not seeing 10 targets a game to Mims. That's really what we should be seeing right now. Ashton Davis looks like he's at least a role player, maybe a number 2 safety or a 3rd safety. In the 3rd round, you'd like to, that high in the 3rd round, you kind of want him to be starting at some point, but he's got the raw ability to eventually get into that role. I would say Zuniga has been a little bit of a disappointment. I was hoping we get a little bit more out of him year 1. I think maybe his development was hurt by not having a preseason. All these rookies have been hurt by not having a preseason. P. Ryan, I think he's got a place on this team. If they decided, hey, we're going to move on from him and we're rolling with Ty Johnson, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with P. Ryan. Hall looks legit. Clark and Morgan are to be determined. I still don't like the Morgan pick. I know you guys don't like the Morgan pick either. Clark, I was hoping we'd see. I'm hoping the reason we don't see him right now is because he's just not ready. He's too young, hasn't had enough snaps, that sort of thing. And then, man, he led all Pro Bowlers in voting at one point. I don't understand how he didn't make the Pro Bowl. I mean, I get his stats were not there to quantify him or to qualify him really into the Pro Bowl. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about this draft class? How un-Jets like has it been considering what we've dealt with the last 10, 15 years or so? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
I think this is a very strong draft class, and like we've said so many times. I mean, the Jets, not only can't they find people in the later rounds, which is obviously more difficult, but we've blown the first 2 rounds consistently for a very long time. I think Becton and Mims are, outside of injury, are locks to be contributors at a high level for this team. When you add role players like Pirine, Pirine and what the fuck was Davis? Davis. That's what. I don't know how good but he looks like a player, man. So these guys are going to be contributors, and then you still have the upside of Bryce Hall, and Bryce Huff, who I think after a year or two might actually be able to be a solid situational pass rusher. I don't know what's up with Zuniga. I like them a lot coming out. Clark is the big disappointment, but like you said, Braden Mann's our punter, man. We have a good punter. He ruined that damn kick return though last week. The bastard. I was pissed.
Oh God, he's a friggin' linebacker. That guy.
Yeah, this is the best draft class we've had in at least a decade, without question.
Matt, what did you think about the strength of this draft class?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I'd go 5 or 6 just yet. I'll run through them all quick, and they might go out of order because I can't remember. But Becton obviously looks very, very, very good. That's a home run. Mims, I think, is going to be a good starter. Whether he develops into a number 1 or not is probably up for debate. But I think at minimum he's a good starter. So right there, that's great. After that, Zuniga, I have to see more of. He looks so. I don't know. We haven't really seen enough. Davis is someone that can be a starter. Would like to see more of him next year, obviously. Pirine, I don't know about him yet. I think fans were overrating what he did earlier in the year. I thought he was just okay. I don't think he was anything great. Who else was in the Morgan? I hated that pick. I still don't like that pick at all. Then you had Hall. Hall, I think, can play. Man, I think, is a good punter right now. I think he has the potential to be even better. Who am I missing? Or did I hit him?
Lawrence Cager.
Did you hit Clark?
I didn't hit Lawrence Cager, LOL. I didn't hit Clark. We haven't seen him yet. I'm hoping that he could maybe be a player, but I don't know. The jury's out on him, too.
I think that's fair. I think it's definitely fair. I see UCF Jaguar jumping in the chat. He is a very good YouTuber for the Jacksonville Meth Kittens. So if you guys want to check that out and get upset when we could troll him when they win this week and the Jags wind up giving up Trevor Lawrence back to the Jets. Oh, that's God, right. I really hope this happens.
Don't worry, we'll give him back again week 17. Don't sweat it.
Oh, God, don't do this to me. It's so brutal. So brutal. It is. So I wanted to throw this up here because I know Green Bean, you and I have kind of discussed this a little bit. We've talked about it on the show, but you brought it up yesterday. Are you guys worried about Gase not being fired? Green Bean, I know we were talking a little bit yesterday in terms of some people that we talked to on the forums. I don't know if it's so much the Adam Gase side of things, but why don't you kind of fill in the stream for what you're thinking about?
Yeah, so on Jet Nation, if you guys don't go on there, you might want to give it a. If you like Talkin Jets, there's a lot going on those forums, and there are some people on there. And I've talked to these guys backstage or DM or whatever you want to call it. And there's a guy on there right now who has a pretty solid source who said this the other day. He said, "Word is that the Jets coaching situation is not going to be what Jets fans are happy. Like, it's not going to make Jets fans happy, the decision that they're going to make. And that the owners are, it's not really Joe Douglas making the decision. He's agreed to kind of play nice and he's just going to build his team. But the coaching hire is not his, it's the Johnsons, and they're doing something that Jets fans aren't necessarily going to dig. Now, look, I even have a source who's really not that good. He did one thing for me, so I don't know. I don't know how well this really is gonna. I don't know how legit it is. Let me say that, but I will say this, and this is what Ryan and I were talking about. It doesn't seem like Gase is either so oblivious and so egocentric that he just doesn't ever think that anything negative can happen to him. He's never going to get fired. But it certainly does look to me like he doesn't care about getting fired. Now, that doesn't mean he's not getting fired, but I'll tell you what, I look to guys like O'Leary who seem to be 100% resigned. Nope, he's gone. So I need that shit because I'm actually nervous right now that the Jets are going to pull this. We're keeping Darnold, we're keeping Gase for another year kind of thing. And we're just going to use these draft assets to get guys that Gates wants and around Darnold. But I it's not beyond what I can see happening, and it makes me nervous. Did I explain that right, Ryan? How did I do?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes a lot of sense. And for me, if that's the case, like if Jet fans aren't going to be thrilled with the hire, I just hope it means Gase is gone. Like there's been enough rumblings that I've sort of heard that I think Gase is definitely not here next year.
Yeah.
It does not shock me that the Jets are going to want to have control, like the ownership will want control over the hire. It confuses me because I think Douglas has shown to be such a good GM. I think you just let the football guy make the decision and just sort of let it ride. He hasn't really steered you wrong to date. I mean, I guess you could argue that he's fielded a 1-13 team and you could be upset with that, but the very limited amount of capital he's spent on players as well as the draft picks that he's made has earned him enough confidence from me to let him make that head coaching hire. So I don't think Gase is coming back. But I do think there's a concern for the Johnsons interfering with the head coaching search. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I would be very, 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 very surprised if Adam Gase came back, even for the Jets and being inept at most times. It really, there's no logical reasoning to bring him back. This has been an unmitigated disaster. He ruined your franchise quarterback. You have to move on. You have to let Joe Douglas bring in his guy. Now, if you want to tell me that it's the Johnsons are going to be more in the decision of who the coach is for the next hire, then I would probably agree with that statement. Not saying that's what I would prefer, but that makes sense because they're very hands-on. They like to do that sort of thing. But I don't see how you could possibly sit there and say, yeah, I want to bring this guy back who just completely derailed the best thing to happen to our franchise in 2018 with Sam Darnold. I don't understand the logic there. Even with Chris Johnson's alleged ego getting in the way. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not about Gase staying on any longer than he has to. And I don't want the Johnsons to get involved with the head coaching search. It would kind of hurt me. Alex, thank you for the super chat. He says, what about trying to grab Dak for 3 years, trade back to around 10, grab the last of the 3 elite wide receivers, draft ETN if available in the later first, and grab Leatherwood if he's there in the second. He follows that up with, and after 3 years with Dak, he trains Bryce and I can't pronounce the Clemson backup quarterback's name, Ugalele or however the fuck you pronounce that. So look, for me, Dak is an interesting option for the Jets, and it depends who we can attract in free agency and how Dallas decides to handle him. Do they slap him with the franchise tag and then try to work out a deal again? Or do they just say, hey, we can't risk franchise tagging you after that injury. Here's the contract offer. You don't take it. We're going to let you test free agency, and we're going to draft a quarterback because we're picking in the top 10 or whatever it is. Taking on Dak and his contract, I like Dak. I don't get the feeling like if you sign Dak, there's a real good shot you're probably hovering between 7 and 11 wins throughout those 3 years. and you're kind of putting yourself in a quarterback purgatory. Then you're going to wind up being similar to like the Bears or like the God, I don't know. It worries me when we're up at 2, have the opportunity to get a quarterback. Maybe it's not Trevor Lawrence, but a good quarterback nonetheless. In terms of ETN, I like ETN. I would rather grab a wide receiver or a running back in the second round, just because I think that 5th-year option on the first round player is so valuable. I'd rather take a corner, an edge rusher, a wide receiver, an interior offensive lineman, like Matt said earlier. And then you said Leatherwood if he's there in the second. So if you ask me, I would flip ETN and Leatherwood first and second round pick. But it's an interesting concept. I think it's something we're going to have to at least sort of consider. It depends. It really depends on who our head coach is. Could you imagine if we bring in fucking Jason Garrett as our head coach because he's in New York, and now we bring in Dak because he wants to bring him here, and then maybe we bring in Ertz because Philly's looking to burn through some players and save some cap space, and now all of a sudden it's a really interesting sort of situation. I think it's something we're going to have to discuss at some point this offseason. Matt, what do you think about Dak? And then ETN, and then Leatherwood.
I'll answer it this way. Do either of you guys like the direction the Minnesota Vikings have gone the last 3 years? Because that's pretty much exactly what it would be with them bringing in Kirk Cousins. Okay, maybe you go 10-6 and you win a random playoff game, but I don't know how much further the ceiling would be from there. And I like Dak, but that's also a risk because he's coming off a major injury, and that cap number is going to be massive. To me, I think you gotta go with the rookie deal. When you look at all these teams when they win their Super Bowls, more often than not, it's with a quarterback on their rookie deal, or if not, then it's Tom Brady taking less money than he should.
Green Bean, what do you think about Dak?
Yeah. I think it'd be the dumbest thing ever. I mean, like I happen to like Dak Prescott, and not for the same reasons that everybody else does. I like him because of the guts he showed admitting his mental health issues, and I respect that, man. And I'm a really big Dak Prescott supporter because of that. I think it's just such a shame what happened to him. He's betting on himself. He turned down, I think the last reported number was $35 million, right? He turned it down and bet on himself, and that gruesome injury happened to him. His ankle was flopping around. He just looked down. He was like, oh, God. And I felt for him. My heart hurt for that man. That said, I don't want to be the team that bets on that ankle and gives him $40 million for the right to do so. I think it's just let somebody else play that game, man. We've been there, done that shit with these aged veterans coming off. Let's just get a quarterback. All right, like Matt said, let's get him on his 5-year rookie contract, and let's build this team. That's what I think we should do. And the good news is I think that's what Joe Douglas will do.
Guys, if you have not answered our question of the day, it is pinned in the live chat. It is also going to be in the description down below, and Nightbot is spitting it out there in the chat as well. What should we do with the number 2 overall pick? Click on the link and cast your vote there. I'm going to be raffling off a shirt at the end of this stream, so all you have to do is cast your vote there. Guys, I want to get into a topic that is sort of in the same vein of the Dak Prescott sort of situation. What do we think about the idea of trading for Carson Wentz? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
It's another one. Why would we trade for... I mean, I don't know. Just maybe I'm way off on this one, but didn't he just get benched because he sucks?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. So I don't know. And doesn't he make $36 million a year?
Yeah, it's like 2 years, yeah. $30 million a year or something like that. It's not a very favorable contract. Let me actually pull it up. I want to see what the trade would be. But go on, give us your thoughts.
But those are my thoughts. I feel like I'm in deja vu with the Dak Prescott feelings. And the thing is, I don't have the same support for Wentz that I do for Prescott. I'm not rooting against him as more than I am every other NFL player not on the Jets. But I don't know. I just think it's one of those things. It's like, why us? Let somebody else, let Detroit do that shit.
So he is getting his cap hit this year is, or for the 2021 season is $34.6 million. Now that said, if he's traded, his cap hit's only going to be $25 million. So
Oh, yeah,
that's one of the weird situations. Like if Douglas has a say in the head coaching hire, is there? I don't know if Doug Peterson's out in Philly because of what's going on with Jalen Hurts. I think he's kind of earned himself the right to sort of stay on there. There was a point in time where I thought Peterson could come in, and maybe there was a shot that Wentz came over with him at that point because of the connection with Douglas and his time back in Philly. But for $25 million, as egregious as I initially thought, and then you could cut him after 2021 if you wanted to. The issue would be, what are you going to have to give up in conjunction with that, along with the salary cap? And I don't think the cap hit's worth it. I'd rather just bring in a young guy. I don't know. I think you could get him for a deal because they're going to want to clear cap space for sure. But man, I don't really want Carson Wentz. Matt, what's your idea? What do you think?
We have a broken quarterback. Why are we trading for another broken quarterback? And, and the same thing. And exactly, a much cheaper broken quarterback on top of that. And I know Wentz was at one point an MVP candidate. I get that. And I liked Carson Wentz. I thought he was good. Even up until last year, I thought he was good. Same thing with Darnold. But based off what we've seen this year, I don't know how we could bank on either of those guys figuring it out. Let Indy trade for Carson Wentz. You can go back with Frank Reich and maybe he'll get him right. That seems to make a little bit more sense. I don't want to touch Carson Wentz. I'm all good there.
I think that makes perfect sense for me. I'm not on board with that. I think a lot of people are probably in that same vein as well. I see a lot of hell no's over in the chat. Guys, we have a few more minutes left in the stream, so if you want to cast your vote, click on the link in the description or the link in the live chat or the link that Nightbot's spitting out over in the live chat. What should the Jets do with the number 2 overall pick? Cast your vote, and I'm going to raffle off a shirt in about 2-3 minutes, somewhere in there. Let's see if we have any good questions in the chat that I'm just kind of missing. Anything you guys want to touch on that we haven't touched on? I see Stafford is another name that people are kind of throwing around. I'll throw that. Big Frank 2005 says that. Stafford.
Yeah. I happen to like Stafford a lot, but if anybody's been given dominant style wide receivers and support over the years and hasn't done it, it's Stafford. He's had terrible coaching situations and organizationally, but I don't know. I think the Stafford train, don't forget, he came in the same year as Sanchez, man. What is that? That's
2009.
12 years.
It's 11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah, what are we doing? We can take Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, or Matt Stafford, or Carson Wentz. I know which way I'm going.
Matt, what do you think about Stafford?
I love Matt Stafford. I think he's an underrated player because of all the crap he's had to deal with in Detroit. I'm not trading for him though. It's how old is he? He's got to be 35 now.
I don't know if he's that old. Let's say he's cut. What would you do if he's cut? Let's say it's not a trade. And I'll pull up Stafford's age right now. Oh, he's 32. He's 32 right now.
32.
Makes me feel a little bit better, but still, I don't. How could you not take the rookie contract? That's my thing. That's so much more appealing to me.
So Stafford, it looks like he probably will be cut. He's got a $10 million option March 17th, and they can save $14 million by cutting him. So if the new head coach wants to move on with their new quarterback, it's going to be a really interesting situation. Let's flip this a little bit. Let's talk about the New England Patriots, because I don't believe they're rolling with Cam Newton next year. Do you think there's a situation, or who do you think? We've brought up Wentz, we brought up Dak, we brought up Stafford. Who winds up in New England? Green Bean, I'll throw it to you first.
Which quarterback is in New England? Is that what you said? I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, which quarterback winds up in New England? There's going to be a lot of options, it looks like. James Winston?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think Belichick's going to take one. I was in a conversation with someone just yesterday about New England taking a quarterback in this draft, and I actually think that's very realistic. So I don't know. I think he's already got Boyer, right, on as the backup quarterback. It's a good guy to have as a backup. I think he drafts one. That's what I think. Goes and gets
Another
a kid.
interesting thought. I see someone talking about Marcus Mariota. I could see Oakland, or not Oakland, I could see Vegas rolling with Mariota next year and either cutting or trading Derek Carr. I think that the mobility of Mariota, if he was drafted, 2 years ago, I think his play style is a lot more conducive to what we're seeing in the NFL now. That could be an interesting option as well. Matt, what do you think the Patriots do at quarterback?
I think we see a Jimmy G reunion. I think the 49ers move on from Jimmy G, and I think that he goes back to New England. Bill gets his guy back, who he always wanted in the first place, and lives happily ever after.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at there. I think what happens is Sam goes to San Francisco. He goes back to the West Coast. He learns under Kyle Shanahan. Because I don't know if the 49ers are going to want to trade up to get the quarterback they want. I think they could get Sam for relatively cheap. It's a good team. It's a strong offensive line. It's a good running game. They got weapons. They have a strong defense when healthy. So I could see this. I don't know what you wind up giving up for it, but I agree. I think Jimmy G winds up back in New England. Unless, I don't know. It's hard for me to see Belichick at his age wanting to groom a rookie quarterback. He feels more like the sign a quarterback and roll with however many victories you can get at this point. Green Bean, any rebuttal for the Jimmy G talk to New England?
No, that's good. I like that. I didn't even, for some reason, that didn't even pop up on my brain. That's a good one. I think that makes tons of sense to me. I also, just so we are clear on who I think Belichick likes, I think he likes Kyle Trask. He could stand there behind his offensive line like Tom Brady's done forever. So that's what I was leaning towards. But I think Jimmy G makes nothing but sense over there.
All right, guys, we are headed towards the end of our stream. So if you guys can give me in the chat a number 1 through 20, I'm going to raffle off a shirt and we'll get someone a shirt for that answered the poll question. So give me a number 1 through 20. Green Bean says 2 right off the bat. He says 2, 5, 3, 2. Let's see what the rest of the chat says. Green Bean doesn't have a say in this. You jerk. Right. PKR says 18.
Wow.
I see an 11, a 16, a 4, 18 and a half. 18 and a half's good. Let's see. We'll give half a shirt to someone. That sounds like a good idea. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so, we got, it's going to be DB Sharf. DB Sharf, you're going to be our winner of today's shirt. Hit me up on the Jets Flick Chat, and I'll get you a Just End the Suffering shirt. I got to get your contact information. I did see one more super chat pop up from Alex. He says, as a Bama fan, what about Steve Sarkisian for head coach? I'll be honest, I don't know enough about him. Do either of you guys know enough to comment either way?
No, I don't, to be honest with you.
No.
Okay. I am so sorry, Alex.
Buddy.
I'd love to be able to answer that a little bit more intelligently. All right, so that takes us to the end of our show. So let's go around the panel. Let's hear some closing thoughts. Green Bean, any last words?
Yeah, I think this was good, man. I think, guys, just as Jets fans, it's very important that we remember that they're not done hurting our feelings. Please keep your guard up. They're not done with us. There's 2 more weeks of weird roller coaster pain coming our way. Brace yourself, and we'll get through this together. Stick together. Don't pick on each other. We're good.
Matt, any closing words for the panel?
This was good for me. We talk about Jets therapy all the time. We needed this. This was good. More of it is coming tomorrow. I got my podcast episode coming out, Just Jets, tomorrow afternoon. So tune into that. And we'll be back again, like always, next week with more pain, I'm sure.
Oh, misery loves company, and we are so glad that you are here sharing this misery with us. Guys, I know I'm speaking for all of us when I say from the bottom of our hearts, we wish you guys the safest and happiest and merriest of Christmases and holidays over these next few days. So make sure you hug your loved ones. Make sure you tell them you care about them. You never know what's right around the corner. Enjoy your time with your families. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. We will see you here next week. This is Jets Talk, your pilot, signing off. Jets.